The next panel is consumer products. What are the most popular and hottest products? Our panelists are Harrison Bard, who's the co-founder of Custom Cones, Kymberly Byrnes, aka Kim B, who is the everything, the CMO of TribeTokes, Jenny Argie, the founder and CEO of Jenny's, Douglas Dunlap, GTM director of CCELL, and I should have worn my glasses, so I'm sorry if I missed the last part. And our moderator is Christina Giovanni, founder and CEO of Emerald Media. Give everybody a big round of applause and enjoy your panel.
Thank you so much for that lovely introduction. Thank you all so much for joining us this afternoon. This is going to be a great panel discussion on products in the market. You know, as states are coming online, new products are emerging. There are more unique and innovative ways to consume cannabis with every passing month. So with our panel here, we're going to dive right into it. And so first question I want to put out there is, what are currently the most popular cannabis products on the market, and what factors in their popularity? Who wants to jump on this?
Okay, well, we know that flower is the queen of the night, right? Everybody wants flower. And the reason why is because the flower has this amazing entourage effect and really appeals to touch, taste, smell, sight, right? So there's something really unique about every single fat nug that you pick up. And, you know, weed is not all created equal, but consumers through the data really want flower products. So, of course, you know, buying Ace or bigger, I like to buy pounds. So I smoke a lot of weed. I smoke fat blunts, Dutch's only, just in case you wanted to know. But pre-rolls, anything that really introduces the whole plant, I think is always going to be the thing that consumers gravitate towards.
Okay.
Yeah,
yes.
Definitely flower is the #1 biggest category in the cannabis market overall. And then the second and third are going to either be pre-rolls or vaporizers. And we're actually seeing flower sales shrink year over year. Every category across the board was seeing some level of shrinkage. There was a little bit of an artificial peak during COVID. But year over year, cannabis sales in the US were actually down 1%. In Canada, they were up 7%. But the areas where we're seeing growth as flower sales are going down are into pre-rolls and vaporizers, as the average consumer is really convenience-driven. So those easy grab-and-go, convenience-driven products are getting more and more popular.
Yeah, to add on that, I completely agree. We're seeing a decline in flower from our data that we're collecting, but it's coming up with concentrates and also oils. I think the rise of e-cigarettes and the adoption of e-cigarettes is making people driven toward purchasing disposable devices and cartridge devices. And so we're seeing a massive uptick in volume of sales of those types of devices. And I think it's because of the ease of use. And then people are also very familiar with that form factor, the e-cigarette, and the being able to step outside of your office or in your car and have a nice, good, authentic experience and then go back into work without smelling like a joint or a blunt.
Exactly. And I think that it's when it can be concealed is where your vapes are starting to see a rise. I also think that we see a big uptick in edibles. We haven't seen beverage really spike at all. It's pretty stayed flat, probably because the consumption lounges haven't come on. As soon as you see that, you're going to see a much larger intake of both edibles and beverage. But it's really about convenience right now. And convenience is a vape.
Yeah, and I was really surprised to see single-use, like disposable vape cartridges. That's one of the fastest growing segments in the US. You hear a lot of talk about like sustainability and recyclability, but at the end of the day, unfortunately, consumers are really convenience-driven and pretty lazy, so those single-use disposable vapes are actually really growing in popularity. We're doing a white paper in collaboration with Headset that's coming out next week, and we asked people in a survey, 1 through 10, how much do you care about sustainability and recyclability? And by far the answers was like 9 and 10. The very next question was, how much are you willing to pay extra for your packaging? And the answers were 1 and 2. So people's heart is in the right place, but unfortunately their wallets are not. And, you know, it was shocking to see those disposable vapes are really popular.
Yes, but you'll also see that full gram vapes are increasing in popularity because of the amount of that oral fixation. And so people are going through those vapes very, very fast, and they're realizing that the value is in getting the full gram vapes. And so we're seeing a big transition that owning a vaping company since 2016, we actually did away with all of our half-gram vapes, and we do the disposables in half grams, and then we're doing the cartridges in the full grams, and we have had 0 complaints. Everybody is seeing the value in the full grams. So, and what is really interesting is the other cannabinoids, and I think you guys all can agree that people are fucking with the other cannabinoids as well. They want the CBG, they want the CBN. So those ratio vapes are really, we're crushing the game with that. And I think that there's something to be said about the maturity of vaping as we see people wanting that other experiential cannabinoid entourage effect along with the THC.
So it's safe to say that vaporizers are on the rise right now. Is that what I'm hearing from you all?
Oh, yeah.
It's still a convenience consumer market out there. So you don't think the vape crisis put a dent, even we're still feeling the effects of that today, or that's a thing of the past?
I think the vape crisis was, it was one detrimental at that time, but I think it helped getting a lot of credibility to vaporizing, because any brand that survived that and any cannabis dispensary or manufacturer that survived that was able to increase their credibility with their customers. And it also gave a lot of the manufacturers like my company a lot more onus on the materials research that they're putting into the product and actually the constructional elements of the product. And so now as a whole, everybody's much more conscious of it. So it's a significantly safer product. And by throwing all this money into safety, it threw money into R&D. So now these products are performing significantly better than they used to. And now that they're performing better and they're working with a wider variety of oils, there is a huge uptick in purchases of cartridges and disposable products.
Excellent. Well, we need as much research and development as possible. And so going back to what we mentioned earlier, you know, convenience, what's easy for the consumer. Jenny, you've got some experience with edibles. I mean, those rose in popularity throughout the pandemic. Where do you see that category when it comes to consumer products?
I think right now the industry is just filled with a lot of unnatural, unhealthy edibles.
Snake oil.
Yes, snake oil. Not only that, it's just majority is just candy, and for the educated consumer who's health conscious driven, there's not a lot of variety or options. So I think we're going to start to see a new wave of healthy products that are going to come on. I mean, obviously keto is really big, so I think we're going to see, I mean, you can't have sugar and have a keto diet. What about, we have a huge increase in diabetes in this country. So if our octogenarian cannabis users want to use edibles, there's not a lot of options for them. So sugar-free, gluten-free, we got to address the celiacs, we have to address the diabetics, we have to address health issues, and cannabis is a wonderful way to address that. So let's create products that they can be infused with.
And Jenny's oil, I'm a longtime user of her coconut oil and her olive oil. I find to be actually more bioavailable and get better effects from using her oils than I do eating most of the edibles that are on the market. So thank you, Jenny, for creating. I'm a Pilates instructor. I'm a Pilates instructor gone rogue, so I'm a 25-year Pilates instructor veteran, and I've been selling weed since I'm 15. So health and wellness and plant-based materials has been near and dear to my heart since I was a very young person. And so I think too, as we see all of these other health issues really popping up, I have ulcerative colitis, and I'm like, where did this come from? It's from eating all of this trash food. And the problem with edibles is that we're eating disgusting sugar-filled chemicals, and that's kind of like counteracting what plant medicine is all about. Like, oh, no opioids, no pills, but yet you're filling yourself up with Stony Patch Kids that are absolutely disgusting.
Thank you, Kim, very much. I think that we're also in the line of edibles, we're going to see beverage. I think beverage is going to, but again, there's no place really for people to enjoy a cannabis beverage right now except for in the privacy of their own home, and it's kind of a social thing. So until we see that, I think that's going to be, and I'm hoping that healthy beverages come on the market as well, that we take this opportunity not to do it wrong and then bring it back in. But
I'm all about health myself personally, but I just do want to do one caveat. Like the 80-20 rule, 80% of consumers, unfortunately, they're not healthy, like they don't care. And it's that big cohort that's driving a lot of recreational sales. So it's like two sides of the same coin. If you're just starting out, it is really good to carve a niche and create a unique SKU. So if you're appealing towards people with celiac, you're going to be able to compete and target that niche way better than someone who's selling Stony Patch Kids. But then I don't want you to think that that product is going to have mass appeal. That is targeting one specific niche. And the majority of consumers are looking for the most high THC, the most flavors. Yeah, like we're in pre-rolls, and I don't like any artificial terpenes, any fake flavors, but consumers love them. So like myself personally, I'm not picking up those type of flavored infused pre-rolls at the store, but those are what's driving a lot of sales. So you do want to figure out, what is driving a majority of the sales and try to create those SKUs as well.
agree with those data now, but if you're a projected forward thinker, because right now we currently don't have 50 states legal, so the stigma of cannabis still exists. It doesn't exist up here or out there, but it still exists among us, so we're still converting users. So let's say the younger generation, the stigma is completely gone. I have 3 children, and cannabis is more normal than alcohol. But as 40, 50, as the boomers start to bring cannabis back into their lives, who actually have the money, you're going to see a totally different purchase. But right now, the 20-somethings are purchasing, but this is going to shift. The more legal we get, the more normal we make it.
And then those 20-something people will be 30-something, and we know what happens in your 30s.
Colitis.
The shit goes down the tube. Also, what's happening is a lot of people are shifting to plant-based diets. So there's a lot of these weird, congealing ingredients that they add that are not actually plant-based. So, we're seeing a little bit of a shift there where people are they're like, I don't want artificial flavors, colors, and preservatives. And we know that women and people over the age of 50 are the highest growing number of consumers. So I think that there is definitely some future proofing that you want to do when you're creating products to think about where is the world going. And as you can see in data, that veganism and all of the things around that, I'm a partial pescatarian myself, that is a growing market, right? And so when you're future-proofing the products that you're creating and then also thinking about what you're going to be selling, you should definitely keep that in mind, that in your demographic, if you are having a store and there are a lot of people with a disposable income in the 50 and over, or in women, you definitely want to have products based on that. Now, here in Manhattan, we know we're going to get a lot of tourists. We're going to get people from all over the world, and this is obviously, a lot of, different generations. So in Manhattan, you're probably going to want to sell those more candy-based things. But in the burbs, baby, when people's at Costco and Target, they're going to want things that are a little bit healthier.
That is actually, great points. And I was going to say, looking ahead, what are some of the trends that you see shaping the cannabis industry? We talked about age demographics, health conscious. what do you guys think are some other trends that are going to shape the future of the cannabis industry?
I think a lot of it, what we're seeing is a lot of people are transitioning to solventless products. The West Coast is going through a massive reckoning right now. Like distillates are pretty much going away, and they're putting in infused products into dry herb. They're also adding more solventless cartridge lines. They're adding more solventless wax and crumble lines. And live resins are really growing up. So we're seeing a huge uptick in the industry there. And a lot of customers are now beginning to demand that here on the East Coast. You look at the Massachusetts market, concentrates are growing at like a 30% rate in the live resin and solventless and live rosin products. And it's basically because it's a higher potency product, it's a much more pure product, and then it's also something that does both of what you guys were mentioning earlier, which is high volume sales, and then also can be somebody conscious to their environmental impact or their health and safety of the product by having a completely solventless product as well. So that's something that we're developing against and making sure that we're meeting the needs of the market and having products that can adapt to both live resins and live rosin products and solventless products, because that's where we're seeing the major shift in consumer demand here in the oil market.
Yeah, infused pre-rolls is one of the fastest growing segments, so they're infusing them with all sorts of concentrates. Distillate is still the most popular. It's definitely the worst quality. Really high potency, but not full plant cannabinoid, not a lot of terpenes in there, but very cheap and affordable, really accessible. But as he said, the solventless like hash rosin is getting really, really popular. That's super expensive. So kind of going back to one of the last topics, you could create multiple brands. So you could appeal to an older, more like canna curious type of demographic, and then you could still target other more hardcore cannabis consumers with multiple brands. With the same machines, you can create the same type of products, and then you just customize a brand, a label, a package design, and then that way you could spread your eggs out and not just target one type of consumer. Infused pre-rolls in the US grew at 22% year over year, and in Canada they grew at over 1,400%. So super, super popular across the country. And we're also seeing multi-packs. So the size of the pre-roll is getting a little bit smaller. That's a big trend. The 1 gram single pre-roll is still the most popular SKU across the industry, but we're starting to see multi-packs get more popular, which is more affordable for the manufacturer, as you're able to spread the labor and packaging cost amongst all the pre-rolls in the box, and then you're passing those savings along to the customer as well. So infused and infused multi-packs are really, really popular trends right now.
As well as dog walkers.
The dog walkers are huge. One other thing to the double branding, a lot of manufacturers are now doing a liquid diamond line. We're seeing a lot of development of liquid diamonds. And that's primarily because you can have a really low price point product with a super high potency. And this is massive for customers that want a huge flavor push and a lot of potency for a $25 a gram cart. And we're seeing brands create 2 different lines. So they still have their solventless high-end $80, maybe $100 a gram. And then they have these liquid diamond lines that are their high volume, high potency production lines. And it's not compromising their quality because they're under 2 different names. So the customer goes in there knowing exactly what they want. They either want that potency or they want the solventless experience, something that they're willing to pay for. And it's not compromising the company's credibility whatsoever doing this. What I would say would compromise their credibility is if they try and do both under the same brand. That's something that I would definitely not recommend, because that starts confusing your branding, and it also starts confusing the marketing of how you would market this product and bring it to market.
And people ask a lot of questions like, why is this $25 and this $50? What's the difference? And so, but how many people in here want to have a store? How many people are in here want to have a store who would like to have a dispensary? So when you're a purveyor of SKUs, what is important to understand is who your actual customer is. Because some people, if you're in a place where it's lower income neighborhoods, you're going to want to have the dog walker infused pre-rolls because it feels like they're getting a lot of bang for the buck. You're going to want the distillate carts because they are very accessible and they basically cost less. But when you're in a more affluent neighborhood where the income is higher and maybe the demographic is people that are a little bit older or more mature, that's when you're going to look for different things. Now, we launched in Massachusetts. We're in adult use Massachusetts. We just launched 2 months ago 3 strains of vapes, and the green crack strain, thank you, is testing out like 93%, and that's our biggest seller. And I'm really shocked because I thought White Widow would be like the big, I was like, this is going to be the one. Everybody's going to want it. It's an OG strain. It has a dope name, whole thing. No, potency has been first. And going through to all of the different dispensaries and being like, why are you ordering so much green crack? Why don't you want Remedy? Why don't you want White Widow? They're like, people want the percentage. They're like nickel dime on the percentage. It's like it's such a small percent. It's 1% difference, but still that 1% difference in their mind is making a difference.
Yeah, the first thing the customer asks the budtender is what's the strongest strain, what's the strongest pre-roll, so that's why infused pre-rolls are blowing up. As the price of cannabis and oil have come down, you can now buy an infused pre-roll for the same price you were buying a regular 1 gram pre-roll, and certain full, like flowered, nice high quality cannabis pre-rolls is the same price as getting an infused pre-roll with a lot of distillate or keef in there, and that's where consumers are putting their dollars. So definitely want to do something with a high THC value.
Just not in New York right now.
I mess with a hash hole.
Let's be clear.
I'm ready for the
Oil's
hash
not
hole,
cheap in
baby.
New York.
Give me a hash hole.
Ooh, I love hash. You know, and when it comes to delivery systems, there's like this nanotechnology now that's out there, and people can get higher faster. What are your guys' thoughts on that? I mean, has anyone tried the aerosol sprays? These are a new favorite of mine. It's just a little spray, and you get elevated in like 90 seconds, it feels like. It doesn't last very long, maybe like 15, 20 minutes, but...
Yeah, we've been seeing, I've seen a lot of like lozenges and sprays, and I've even seen nose misters as well. People like that, but I think it's really niche. A lot of people that consume cannabis still want the oral fixation. So we're seeing a lot of brands like put 5 to 10% of their portfolio in these niche technologies, but the core of their sales is pre-rolls, cartridges, and concentrate in gram jars. And so consumers are trying this, and then they're always going back to that. And that's why from like a vape and cartridge manufacturer, what we're trying to do is make the efficiency and delivery much higher, so people can get higher faster off of our products and off of our vaporizers. And we're trying to reduce the particle size, so you're getting that quick hit experience of a throat lozenge or a mister, but you're getting it through a traditional oral fixation route that people know and love and are comfortable with.
I do nano, and it is much more bioavailable, 100%. And it's really a lot of caveats, and thank you, Kim, for using my oils. But it is a lot of carriers. So you can mix different carriers. You can use nanotechnology. You can do a lot of homogenizing, emulsifying, different techniques during the process of infusing your products that make a big difference than just throwing a distillate in there that stops and doesn't hit certain passes throughout the body and can't metabolize.
Yeah, and it's also what else you have in your stomach. So if you eat an edible on an empty stomach, it's not going to absorb as much. You need those fats. So if you're trying to be healthy, like avocado is great. Otherwise, just eat some cookies and brownies, and that's going to absorb much better through you. So if you have an edible first thing in the morning, you're probably not going to feel as high or anything at all versus if you have something with the dinner.
Excellent. All right. Well, is there anything anyone else would like to say? Otherwise, we're going to turn it over to the audience if anyone out there has any questions for our panelists.
I also want to bring up a point here in New York that, we're a mature market because the legacy market be crushing the game here, right? The legacy market crushes the game in New York. So we are a mature cannabis user market. However, we are immature at what the legal market is bringing. And I think what we're going to see in the dispensaries in New York is we're going to see BIPOC, LGBTQ, and women-owned brands are going to be on the forefront of what is selling. people are going to want that farm to table attitude. They're going to want their local stuff. They're going to want their local people. And we're starting to notice that in the food and beverage industry, where people want this farm to table. They want local. They want to know where they're like, oh, it's from the Adirondacks. It's from the Catskills. Okay, so we're gonna and those names. The New York names are going to be very well sought after, because people want this New York themed thing. Now, with that being said, of course, people right now are very comfortable with brands like PAX that are just very well known. So we're really comfortable with that. But as you see more dispensaries get online, you're going to see more of these BIPOC and women-owned and these craft brands. Like the bro brands are going to have a place always, but we're going to see a big shift in women using cannabis in the legal market here in New York, and we're going to see them wanting these women-centric brands. Now, Jenny has a great brand. Jenny's, my company, TribeTokes, is women-owned and operated. Our stats online are actually more favorable towards men.
And you can find them at the Emerald Dispensary.
Hey. We're also in Housing Works and in Travel Agency, in Etain. We'll be in the Shinnecock Tribe, Little Beach Harvest dispensary soon. So we're coming online. But I do see a lot of men there. But people, those dispensaries, Housing Works, and Travel Agency are saying that your products are selling like wildfire, because people want this woman, a little bit more of a feminized philosophy and core values. So I think that we're going to see a lot of that shift in the industry as well. So when you're stocking your shelves, a lot of the Massachusetts dispensaries have a woman's section, and that's really amazing. They're also promoting, Etain just dropped a LGBTQ vape, and so we're gonna see these types of products come online, and they're gonna be hot off the press.
Yeah, and to piggyback off that, I think developing your DNA is critical. Finding what your niche in the market is and carving out your own personality is critical, because what we saw in California and what we see in Oregon, Washington, Denver, if you just try and go for volume sales and you just try and reach a price point, you're going to crash the market. The neighborhoods and the dispensaries will fail. So what you need to do is come up with what makes you special, why people should walk into your stores, why they should buy your brand, and stick with it. That doesn't mean you can't experience with low price point or high price point products. Try it, but make sure that you're going with your focus and your intention, and you set that attention when you walk in. Because if you're just going for a price or volume market, this market will crash, and everybody is going to be scrounging for pennies. And that's not a good way to set up a legal market, and you're already competing against black market here in New York, which is going to be very tough. So finding that DNA, establishing it for yourself, and then trying different product or category lines to gauge different volumes, that's going to be critical to success, and it's going to be what makes you set up for success for the long haul as well.
Yeah, and then a big part of getting your brand to sell is making friends with the bud tenders. They're really the gatekeepers of the industry. If they don't like your product, or if they heard something bad about your product, had a bad experience with your brand, they're not going to recommend your products, or they may even say something negative to the consumers. So you want to have a really good relationship with the dispensary and all of the bud tenders there, drop off samples. You could host different events, bud tender days, and really just create a nice community with all the stores you work with, and then they're going to recommend your brand, and that's what's going to help you move in those stores.
That it's going to be, Harrison, that's so well said. It's going to be a similar philosophy as pharmaceutical reps. They bring in all the goodies, and then the people love them, and then the doctors write the scripts. So I'm not comparing cannabis to pharmaceutical, but the value there is what pharmaceutical reps do is something that you might want to do if you have a brand and you go into the dispensaries. It's the same philosophy there.
Great, thank you so much. Does anyone in the audience have a question? Yes, you. And you're welcome to come up to the mic, or I can meet you in the crowd.
I think, I don't know if this is working.
Can we turn this mic on right here? Oh, okay. Try it again.
Hello? Hello. Okay, I think we're working now. Great. Hi, thank you very much to all the panelists. Incredibly helpful and valuable information. I have a specific question about, I guess, insights that you guys can give from like emerging markets, because like in New York, you know, where licensed businesses are coming online now, the licenses are going to open up, but I think that there's a huge demographic of like people who haven't tried cannabis before, who are like really interested in it, and we know education has been discussed a lot as like a vehicle to get them there. But have you seen in any other emerging markets or markets that have recently legalized adult use, what kind of products for that demographic, right? People who want low THC, what kind of products are popular there, right? Are they gravitating towards something? Thank you.
I think can be sort of hit on it a minute ago with Massachusetts, that 40 to 50% of the sales are now to women. And I think probably at least half of those are New York women. But I think that they're starting to sell products that we haven't seen take off, like 1906 does very well with their capsules, their tablets. Those are doing very well. Nobody saw that coming, I don't think, and that is definitely a demographic sale. That is absolutely, and also beverage, I think, is doing well in mass as well, and that hasn't been doing well anywhere. So, you know, definitely what's working in Cali is not working in New York, and vice versa. So I think, yes, so that's, I think for us, Massachusetts, we're seeing different type products sell, and it's because it's what can be suggested is that they're selling to women, and that's a new demographic, and to boomers, and a whole nother demographic.
Absolutely. And I think people want experiential. They want to say, I'm going to go to sleep. What should I take? Right? So there's a lot of
replacing
products.
pharmaceutical.
Yeah, there are products that have the melatonin in it, gummies and things like that. So you're going to see the supplement industry is merging with the cannabis industry. And we're making these products that are creating this experiential idea of sleep, day, work, party, chill. And that, again, is where as I said before, the ratios, the other cannabinoids are coming into play. And what's happening here in New York, and this is from Dave Votrin, who is one of the partners at Travel Agency, he said the ratios are a hot commodity. People are coming in and be like, I want to feel like this. And, you know, the bud tenders here are very well to do. They are well taught. They are well trained in these new dispensaries. And they're actually able to say, okay, you need some CBD, you need some CBG. These gummies have melatonin in them. So it's for those people who are new, they're not asking for the potency. They're saying, I want to go to sleep. I want to do my homework. I want to do housework. I'm going to go out. I want something for the day. I'm in pain. So there's the experiential, the companies that are offering that experiential philosophy are the ones that are doing really, really well right now.
Yeah, and I think something I touched on earlier was the disposable e-cigarette look. Something that's very unique to the East Coast that I've seen is the botanical terpene distillate in a disposable. That's huge for this market. A lot of consumers like that creamsicle or minty or very similar to their e-cigarette palette, and they're starting to want it in cannabis, and that's something very unique to here on the East Coast. It's not really taking off or doing that well on the West Coast, but it's very good for the new consumer, especially the consumer here in New York. New York's the third largest e-cigarette market in the United States, so there are a lot of customers that have been smoking that for a long time, and they want to continue smoking cannabis. They may not want to smell like cannabis or something, and that's why they're not going with pre-rolls, or they won't get super high like they do on edibles, so they'll do a 1-to-1 ratio of some botanical terpene distillate in an e-cigarette-like disposable.
I'm doing $2 million a year with TribeTokes with that model. So it's a model that actually is, and we get a ton of people from the West Coast. Now this is CBD. This is not THC, But nationally online and in wholesale, we're doing $2 million a year with the botanical terpenes in the distillate. I also have live resin products, and we're launching rosin and all sorts of other things because it's progressing. But you're absolutely right. You hit the nail on the head. Our disposable juicy fruit CBD vape is crushing the fucking game. Killing it, and people are sucking on them like they're jewels because they don't want the nick, right? This is like a healthier option to nicotine, and the oral fixation of the jewel and the the salt nick pens. People want that, and they're obsessed with it. And 45% of our online sales is repeat customers. So that is a true statement that people are going to want things to taste good. That's why the flavor ban is real for the Nick, because it tasted a little too good.
Yeah, people not only want flavors, but they want variety, so you should be constantly coming out with new flavors. There's a really big flower company in Washington where their whole business model was, we have these like 8 strains, these are our best strains, we're never gonna change them. And they went from one of the top companies in Washington to no one was buying their product because consumers are just used to saying, what's the newest strain, what's the newest flavor? So you should definitely have a wide array of flavors, and then don't pigeonhole yourselves and think these are my 3 genetics, I'm just gonna stick with this for the rest of my life. You need to be constantly innovating and bringing in new flavors and strains for your customers.
Anyone else have another question?
Do you have any advice for people who are trying to get on-site consumption licenses for cannabis? Or is there a different process to get that type of license?
From what I understand, consumption lounges will first be granted to dispensary card holders, and then perhaps in the coming years they'll offer that as a separate. We have a new card holder on the panel here. Who just got her license and her location.
And my partner right there in the audience.
Other partners here, in Bushwick. So everybody needs to come for the grand
Come on
opening.
down to the bush.
Yeah. So maybe you could answer this for us.
I agree with what Jenny is saying. I believe for now they've just given consumption lounges to the dispensaries. Maybe that'll change down the road. I think that, if we look at other states, what was the regulation this year may not be the regulation next year. So the industry is constantly evolving. But for now, if you are a retail license holder, you can have consumption and delivery as well. So.
One thing I could suggest that happened in Massachusetts, in Worcester, the only consumption site there, the guy was really active in his community. He volunteered. He was part of the recovery program and 12-step recovery programs for alcohol and substance abuse. And that was what got him past city council, was how active he was in his community, and then also how appropriate he was bringing the consumption sites to the city council meetings and how he was pitching it. So yes, the rules are dispensary only currently, but if you want it, you got to try really hard for it. And the way you try hard for it is being a responsible member in your community, for sure.
My experience, I've been in the New York program for over 6-7 years, and New York likes proof of concept. So go, if it's not, if you really want the THC consumption, start with CBD. Set something up that's experiential. Kymberly has amazing products. You could outfit your from facials to vapes to edibles. There's so many wonderful products in New York to pick from, and then you could start to show New York a concept that you have.
Yeah, I think that sounds great. And then you can have events there, and kind of build it out as an event space for the industry, and it's a great start. All right.
And in those event spaces, you're going to see a lot of infused pre-rolls. And that's what is going to happen in the consumption lounges is people are going to want to grab and smoke. So what's easier than grabbing and smoking than an infused pre-roll? And so in those types of spaces, I think Smack Village, I think they have a consumption space that they're going to be opening. I would assume that they'll be crushing the game in pre-rolls, and their variety of pre-rolls will be robust. And they'll have multiple brands. And then what you'll also see is the pre-packs, right? For those of people who like the grab and go or the grab and smoke, but don't want the paper, those little pre-packs are amazing, and they're made out of glass, which can be recycled. Glass is the #1 most recycled, one of the most recycled products out there, and so really one of the most sustainable products. So I love the pre-packs. I think they're wonderful. You can reuse them, and you can fill them up with anything that you want. And so that's something for all price points.
Yeah, and like Jenny said, it's more about the experience. People don't really need a place to go smoke weed. They're doing it in the street in New York. You can go to Central Park. You could be in your house. So it's really somewhere to go and have an experience, provide unique items that you can't necessarily roll at home. Like infused pre-rolls are really difficult to make yourself. You'd have to have little tools, and the oil's sticky, so that's annoying. Using special tips, or just have something else to do in your lounge, like like a Dave & Buster's, like some games where people can come. Like an arcade bar is usually like one of the most popular bars, where it's about the ambiance. You don't just want a bunch of couches where people are sitting and smoking weed. You need it to be a really good ambiance.
Great, fantastic. All right, we've got time for one more question. Or we'll make it two. Okay. How about you? Either one. Thank you.
You guys were talking about bud tenders being the gatekeepers, right? And so my question is kind of, it's about education, not only to the consumers, but to those bud tenders. Oftentimes, bud tenders are young men, maybe in their 20s. When you ask them what kind of products do you like, they lean a certain way. And so can you guys talk a little bit about the education that needs to be done for bud tenders to understand maybe a consumer like my mother who's coming in, who doesn't want the hottest fire on the market, but wants something to help with menopause, something like that?
Demo days.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's like any other industry. You need to create a sales team, and that sales team needs to have an agenda set up. So this needs to be planned in advance. What are your numbers that year? How are you going to make that happen? And by training your sales team to train the bud tenders, they're constantly touching on those touch points. But you can't say it once. You can't say it once to anybody. You have to say it multiple times, which means you have to have an initiative that you go in every week to that dispensary, and you look at merchandising, you look at speaking to those bud tenders, you have tear sheets that you leave behind so that they have quick facts, make it very pictorial. Keep this as simple and IKEA as possible to be able to follow, but it's a program.
Yeah, I mean, bud tender training is something we do every single day. We have a whole outside sales team that goes out and physically trains them, but they also get trained by a million other brands every single week. So what we do is we incentivize them. We created an online training portal, and every portal every module that they complete, we give them a gift card or a free product or something else to incentivize them to want to come back and learn more, and to have us stand out as another manufacturer that's there to train through incentivizing and through actually going there and doing in-store activations to help out the training that you just hosted maybe 2 weeks before.
So I've been training in the stores personally, my brand in travel agency, Housing Works, and Etain. I'm going to go to Kingston next week and do another Etain training at their store there. I do agree with everyone when everyone says, but I have something else that I'm going to drop on y'all about the bud tenders. You need to connect with them. They see through the bullshit. They fucking know when you're lying and you're just there to make money. You need to connect with them on a human level and treat them like they are your people, because they are. So it's not just about your product. It is, but when they like you, when they mess with you, when they follow you on Instagram and hear your story and yo, that Kim B, I like her. I've got bud tenders hitting me up every single day. Literally on my ride in, I had 2 bartenders like, Kimby, we're getting out early and we're coming to the CWCBE. We're going to go to your booth, blah, 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 blah. They are invested in you when they like you, and they will tell people about your products when they like you. So you have to have a good person going in and representing the brand, because if not, they see right through it.
The gatekeeper and the keymaster. All right.
Yeah, and
sir,
as like a
I agree
dispensary
very
owner,
much.
yeah, as a dispensary owner, you need to have that same mindset. Like, these are your employees, these are your people, so treat them with respect, hire the right people. You know, you don't only need to love cannabis, but you need to be knowledgeable about it. So see if people are going to expos, taking the learning upon themselves. You're not going to force feed them the information. So you want to try to hire the type of people that really care about the industry and are taking the time to really educate themselves.
Thank you. All right, I want to make sure we have time for this.
So thank you first to the panel. It's terrific. I think, Kim B., you mentioned very similar to a pharmaceutical sales model, and coming out of a farmer and consumer company. A farmer sales model is right on. I haven't heard anyone talk about trademarking. And in a consumer branded company, or in a consumer world, what are you guys doing about trademarking?
Spending a lot of money with a good trademark lawyer, because your IP is very important, but it costs money to protect that. So make sure that your IP lawyer is on point.
Yes, and if they find out that this is for a cannabis company, you may have some challenges there as well. So keep
Yeah,
that
if you're
in mind.
purely a cannabis company, you could still apply your trademark to CBD items or vape pens, like just the battery. So there are ways, like lighters, t-shirts, there's like class 34 is like smoking articles. So you could still get a trademark on a perfectly legal good that way. And at the end of the day, when it's time to sell your business, that's where you're going to be able to make the most money. Right now, people are just surviving with that ultimate dream of one day selling to a larger company or potentially acquiring other smaller companies. That's where the real value is in having a strong brand. So it is really important to put down that framework now. Don't just pick a super generic name. So if it's a real word, most likely a ton of other people are using that word. If it's a stoner term, you're not going to have a strong trademark on that. So try to pick a unique name or like a fake word like Google, where you could really own that trademark.
And you can look up trademarks yourself on the trademark website. I do that. We have multiple trademarks, so we use that website to see like who's already got trademarks and if they're dead or whatever.
Who's coming in on your trademark?
I don't think anybody wants to mess with me.
But you got to check it out. Make sure no one
yeah,
sneaks in on you.
Yeah, but TribeTokes is trademarked, Tribe Beauty, Tribe Revive, so we have all of our trademarks. But we've been at it for a minute. But make sure you have a good person helping you with that, because you do want to protect yourself, like Harrison said.
Yeah, that website is free to use. It's a government website called TESS. It looks like it was built in the 90s. It probably was built in the 80s. So it is a little bit funky to use, but take a little bit of time to learn how to do the proper searching, and you could learn a lot there. And a lot of trademark lawyers will do a knockout search free of charge or for a small fee, where they'll be able to, you could give them a couple of names, a couple ideas, and they'll let you know how viable it is to get a mark on that.
Excellent. All right. Thank you all so much. Thank you to our panelists for being up here. This was amazing. Thank you to the audience. And if you have any other questions, feel free to approach us. Thank you.